वर्धन पादपतले कालिन्दीवने कुतः घोषन्ताविति सर्वतो ब्रजपुरे खेदै महाप्युभलौ वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजगं श्रीजीव गोपाल वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजगं श्रीजीव गोपाल कृष्ण कीर्तन गानन तन परौ प्रेमामृतं वनिधि धीराधीर जनप्रिय प्रियकरौ निर्मत्सरौ पूजितौ श्री चैतन्य कृपाभनौ भुवि भुव भरावहं तारकौ वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजगं श्रीजीव गोपालकौ कृष्ण कीर्तन गानन तन परौ प्रेमामृतं वनिधि धीराधीर जन प्रियकरौ निर्मत्सरौ पूजितौ कृष्ण कीर्तन गानन तन परौ वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुता पदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् सात्वैकं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितं च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती नामिनी श्री वार्षभानवी देवी दयिताय कृपाब्धये कृष्ण संबंध विज्ञान दायिने Prabhu Namaha Madhurjayujjala Premadhya Sirupanu Bhakti Sri Gauda Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namah
Kamora Bata Juga Kakavira Kamora Bata Juga Kamora Bata Juga Kakaviraj Kamora Bata Juga Kakaviraj Eka Kalekota Gela Goranataraj Goranataraj Eka Kalekota Gela Goranataraj Eka Kalekota Gela Goranataraj Pashane kuti bo mata anale pashibo Pashane kuti bo mata pashibo Pashane kuti bo mata Anale pashibo Anale koti bo mata Goranga gunera nidi kotagele pabo Goranga gunera nidi kotagele pabo Goranga gunera nidi kotagele pabo Goranga gunera Se saba sangira sange ye kolobila Se saba sangira sange ye kolobila Se saba sangira sange Ye koilo bila Se saba sangira sange Ye koilo bila Se sangana paya Kande narotamoda 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 Yeah anilo premadana koruna prachu ye anilo premadana koruna prachu ye anilo premadana koruna prachu ye anilo premadana he no Prabhu kota ye la acharya taku he no Prabhu kota Gela Acharya Taku Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Prana Prabhu, Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Prana Prabhu. Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Prana Prabhu, Prana Prabhu, Jaya Prana Prabhu, Prana Prabhu. Nitya Gaura Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol, Haribol. Nitya Gaura Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Hey, Prana Prabhu ke. Want me to read it? He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where am I, Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where am I, Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities, being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees in whose association he performed these pastimes? Narottam Das simply weeps. Lamentation due to the separation from the Lord and his associates.
Thank you, Ramai Swami. Now we will invite Nrsimha Kavach Prabhu to read some Chandrakoti Mataji, Prana Prabhu's wife. She sent details of the passing of Prana Prabhu, and so Nrsimha Kavach Prabhu will read that.
Okay, so this is Prana Prabhu's Leaving His Body, written by Chandrakoti Mataji. On Friday morning, 5 January 2024, we were informed by Prana Prabhu's doctor, Dr. Ananta Singha, at the Bhaktivedanta Hospice, that Prana Prabhu likely had 4 to 5 days, 1 week maximum, left. After a phone call with Burijan Prabhu, who was still in Govardhan, he sent Braj Bihari Prabhu immediately back to Vrindavan to be with us and to assist us. Later that evening, after the 24-hour kirtan, Vrindavan boys Braj Bihari Prabhu and Nitai Charan left, I began to settle Prana in for the night. He was on oxygen support, but his oxygen wasn't seriously low. I had to make sure that the monitor did not fall below 90. At this point, nothing was critical. He just needed oxygen to help him be comfortable. His heart rate was a little fast, but the doctors and nurses said that it was not a problem. I gave him a little water and tucked him in for the night. We chanted Hare Krishna together. After a while, he spoke to me and said, "I want to go." I said to him, "Where do you want to go?" He said, "To Krishna." I said, "Are you ready to go?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Are you sure you want to go?" He said, "Yes." Then I said, "Okay, let's keep chanting then." After some time, I checked again. "Do you still want to go?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Are you ready to go?" He said, "Yes." And then I said, "Okay, so Gadai Garanga are right here on the altar for you. What about Lord Nrsimhadev? Should I bring him to you?" Prana Prabhu said, "Yes." I brought a small album over to him with Lord Nrsimhadev on the front and held up the Lord for him to see, and then placed the pictures in his hand. Then I said, "So now you have Lord Nrsimhadev." Actually, inside the album there is Radha Ballabha, Radha Giridhari, Radha Gopinath, Radha Shamasundar, and also Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Gurudev, Tamal Krishna Goswami. They are all with you now. He nodded his head. Then I said, "What about Guru Maharaj Burijan Prabhu, who is his formal Siksha Guru? Should I bring him too?" Prana said, "Yes." I brought and showed him the picture and placed it in his other hand. Then I said to him, "Now you have Lord Nrsimhadev, Radha Krishna, and Guru Maharaj with you." Prana said, "Okay, let's go." He then started chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I said, "Okay, but Burijan Prabhu is coming from Govardhan to see you tomorrow. If you have already gone before he comes, what will I say to him?" Prana said, "Tell him Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare." We continued to chant together. At one point, his eyes became very wide as he looked around above him. He appeared to be very conscious and lively. I was thinking in the back of my mind, this could go on for some time. Every night so far, he'd been able to sleep and rest comfortably enough, but not tonight. It was now after midnight, about 12:50. We were chanting, and every now and then, I served him a sip of water. It looked like we were going to be chanting all night. He was like an enthusiastic little boy, excited to be going on a holiday. He had everything he needed, and he wanted to get going. After some time, I said to him, "Braj Bihari is here in Vrindavan. He came back just to be with you. Can he be with you here too? You said you wanted to go back to Krishna." Prana said, "Yes." Continues chanting Hare Krishna. I said, "Okay, I will call him to come." I tried to phone Braj Bihari, but did not pick up the phone. It was 1:02 Saturday morning. After a couple of minutes, I said, I tried to call him, but he didn't pick up the phone. He must be sleeping. It's 1 o'clock at night. It's okay. We better keep on chanting. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We continued chanting for now, and then I'd put the oxygen mask back in place as he either pulled it up or down. After some time I said to him, "We can take some rest. Just close your eyes, think of Krishna. His footsteps are upon this land, right here in Ramanreti. Krishna and Balaram would play here, and all the cows were here too. Krishna's pastimes happened right here." Then I soothingly and briefly told him some of his favourite pastimes as Krishna, as a kind of a lullaby to get him to sleep. My intention was to get him to meditate on Krishna's pastimes, and then I slowly petered it out, and just said, "Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." I thought he was going to sleep, but his eyes opened up again, and he chanted, "Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare." I was thinking, what are we going to do? We might be here all night. A phone call came from Madhu, their son Madhu Mangal, and we discussed his flights. Prana and Madhu farewelled each other at the end of the call. After that phone call, Prana and I went back to our chanting. I had to put on my thinking cap. What were we going to do? It seemed like we were going to be chanting all night. I needed a little rest. Mother Devi Shakti had told me, "Krishna is saving him from extended suffering. Please maintain your balance by concentrating on the holy name exclusively. This is the final test. Help him to pass it gloriously." Dr. Ananta Singha is most experienced at this, so please follow his advice. Call if I can help in any way. Otherwise, keep it simple. Everything is perfect and complete. I really like Mother Devi Shakti's instructions, so I said to Prana to just chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna and follow Dr. Ananta Singha's advice. The doctor told us to use a homeopathic sleep spray if he had trouble sleeping. So I asked Prana, "Can I give this to you?" He agreed, and I gave him a little. It was now 1:30 a.m. His eyes started to gently close. I put the oxygen mask back on and arranged a makeshift sleeping space nearby him so that I could get some rest and at the same time keep an eye on his oxygen mask. At 2 a.m. he woke again, chanting softly, "Krishna, Krishna." I asked him if I could give him a little more of his sleep spray. He settled peacefully, comfortably holding the Shingadev and Guru Maharaj in his hands. His eyes were closed. I gently reminded him that there was nothing to worry about. Krishna is taking care of us. Everything is in Krishna's hands. Just think, Krishna, Krishna. I dimmed the lights and settled down to take rest, and at the same time I kept an eye on his oxygen mask. I fell asleep after a while around 3 a.m., Saturday the 6th of January 2024. I woke up at 5 a.m. with a call from Trivikram in New Zealand. I whispered to him, "I can talk now, but I can't put you on speaker." I glanced at Prana Prabhu while on the call. I didn't want to wake him up. In the soft lighting, I could see that his mask was on. He looked comfortable, exactly the same as when he went to sleep. I whispered while on my call so as not to wake him up. After the call, I got up and went to his bed. He was peaceful and his oxygen mask was on. In his hands were Lord Nishingadev and Guru Maharaj. I sensed that he had gone. I felt his pulse. Nothing. I put my hand upon his heart. He had gone. And there's another thing that I've been asked to read here. This is a reference from Prabhupada, and this was sent to Prana Prabhu by Ananda Tirtha Prabhu in November 2023. Death is stopped as soon as you take Krishna consciousness very seriously. Immediately from that moment, as soon as you are initiated, you promise before the spiritual master, "Yes, I am initiated. I shall act like this." And if you follow, then your death is stopped from that point. No more death. No more death. Simply an official business. Just like you go to sleep and again you awake. Similarly, a devotee's death is like that. It is like sleeping and the next moment in the spiritual kingdom, immediately. Immediately. When he will rise, he will see that I am with Krishna. I am with Krishna. And this is from Bhagavatam lecture Prabhupada gave in January 1974. And I have Prana's response to that. He writes, "Wow, thanks for that. I just finished puja and meditating on where I am going after all this is over. Prabhupada makes it sound so easy." Hare Krishna.
So now we'll invite Ramai Swami to come and speak.
Okay, so Vaishnavi has given me some history of Prana Prabhu, going from when he was born to when he became a devotee, and all the different services he's done through the years. Of course, we've all come here to pay our offer our respects to Prana Prabhu on the occasion of his passing, which was on what day actually was it? What day was? The 6th of January. Saturday? Saturday the 6th of January. All right, so I didn't associate with Prana closely, but I've known him for a long time, since he joined the Krishna consciousness movement. But I'll just read a little bit here what Vaishnavi has put together, timeline of His Grace Prana Prabhu's life. Prana was born on 23rd of January 1962, and he departed this world on the 6th of January 2024, just before the age of 62 years old. He was a humble and true Brahmana, lived a life of integrity, and served ISKCON education for decades, over 40 years, since the late 80s. Prana Prabhu was a champion for child protection and was part of the committee. So, Prana was born and raised in Melbourne in a devout Irish Catholic family with 11 siblings. Prana Prabhu says in an interview, "Growing up in a large family prepared me for the ISKCON family ashram life." So, 11 siblings. His name was O'Sullivan, wasn't it? Paul O'Sullivan. Yeah, O'Sullivan, yeah. Paul O'Sullivan. It says here, Irish Catholic. And 11 siblings. I always remember now, he told me one time that he had a brother who was like opposite to him, because he had many siblings, but he had one brother. His name was Luke O'Sullivan. And he played for the Carlton AFL Footy Club, Premier League, the Carlton Footy Club, between, I think, the ages. Now, he's the younger brother, and I think he played between the years 1988 to 96. So he said that he excelled in that way, and I went in another direction. So on the surface, we were diametrically opposed to one another in character. Him going in, being a professional football player, and I was more in the academic line. But we had the same type of urge to excel. So he excelled in football, and I wanted to further myself with my education and in my Krishna consciousness. So I just thought I'd throw that in. But he had, I never knew he had 11 siblings, but he had one brother, Luke O'Sullivan. So he joined the Brahmachari Ashram in Melbourne to the University Vegetarian Bhakti Yoga Club. In 1985, he was 23 years old. And so took in the vegetarian club, and he took cooking classes with Korma, and started going to Crossways in Melbourne, eating lots of prasadam, halva. He especially liked halva, and who didn't like halva? And reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Prana Prabhu was inspired to pursue education after reading the then glossy BDG magazines, which contained pictures of the ideal lifestyle, children at New Govardhan. He completed his university degree while in the ashram at Albert Park in Melbourne Temple. And from 1988 to 89 to about 96, he was down at New Nandagram and in Bamborough, down in Victoria there. There he helped found the school and he was involved along with others in getting through all the red tape that was necessary to start the school. Prana, in the role of a teacher, was more involved in Krishna conscious curriculum development. In Prabhu's own words, he repurposed stories from Chaitanya Charitamrita, simplified for child-appropriate language for different age levels with a variety of comprehension questions based on Bloom's taxonomy. And there's a little graph there: create, evaluate, analyze, apply, understand, remember. And different types of engaging activities based on all the amazing stories of Raghunath Das Goswami meeting Lord Nityananda, Panihati, Shakshi Gopal, Madhavendra Puri, etc. He thus developed his attachment to Krishna conscious curriculum development, which spanned over decades. It was the early days of computer technology, much handwritten work, inputting stuff, educational data into the computer and printing. They built the ashram with mud brick. Gokul was there. I suppose you can speak a bit more about that. Lots of devotees coming to help. 96, inspired by a progressive BBC documentary made in the early 90s, Socrates for 6-year-olds. Philosophy for children and literature based on communicative inquiry in the classroom by Matthew Lipman. Prana Prabhu delved into studies on how to teach children to think critically and to inquiry and to think rationally within a devotional context. Thus he returned to Melbourne to do his master's degree in education. His thesis, Vedic education, the contemporary concept. Oh, I see. So he could work on developing a thinking skills program for devotee children. Then in 98, he went to America to develop a Krishna conscious curriculum there. There he stayed at Umala Devi Dasi's home, which was based on the temple property there, where there was a Gurukul, and wrote curriculum for use by ISKCON schools internationally. I remember that he was over there. Umala is not here. I guess when she comes she can speak more about that. They had curriculum framework and objectives integrated around 30 themes. In 99 he went to India, Vrindavan and Mayapur for about 1.5 years.
And he said Vrindavan, and that was it. So good luck, goodbye. And then earlier last year, I heard that he was in Mayapur, and I thought, what's he doing in Mayapur? He wanted to go to Vrindavan. And of course he was successful. He did go to Vrindavan to leave his body. So he did he? Yeah. Okay. So what's my take from Prana? Well, he's just a good devotee to be with all the time. There was never any issues with him. And his encouragement, his personal actions, I'll have to quote Bhagavad Gita, whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow. But for him, I'd have to give him I'm very gracious and grateful that he actually helped to make me a better person. So thank you very much.
We'll invite Basu Prabhu to speak.
Look at it. Look at the gaze of Maharaj. He just sort of looks through you when he addresses you. I don't have very many outstanding things. Memories, just one really intimate feeling that whenever I associated with Prana, there was a very warm camaraderie between us, and that was right from the beginning. Actually, I think I was maybe one of the first people to see him come when he come to the Crossway Centre. I don't know which was first, the cooking class or the Crossway Centre, but he was a student and he'd pop in, as students would, and we were preaching there. I think Denista was washing the pots out the back at that point in time. And we had two people. We had Prana, who was Paul, and we had Nick, who actually became Yadu Shrestha. So both of them, Yadu, he was a class 4 statistician for the public service, right? And Prana was a scholar. And I just remember preaching to him week after week after week, and then finally, are you going to join soon? Yeah, give it a little bit more time. So it went on for about 4 months, or I can't remember how long. I thought these guys are never going to join. But they both did join, and Yadu's doing extraordinarily well in his sadhana in Perth, and Prana Prabhu, he just was this amazing personality that just, once he was able to shed any sort of attachments he had to anything, he just proceeded to go really well. So when we moved to Nandagram, that's when he came and he taught. And I'm amazed, I'm shocked when Gokul was saying about the austerities that he actually underwent, just living in a caravan and just being a simple brahmachari like that. Go on. That is amazing for such a sensitive soul, so that was really outstanding. So he did teach my son and daughter every 15 slides or so that slide comes up with all the Gurukul kids under a tree, and I've got bells on the right there next to Prana. And then with the sort of look, and then Julian with a pink skirt in there. So Julian was just telling me a couple of weeks ago that Prana was the best teacher ever, and she held so much esteem and respect for him all of her life through. And just quickly, when we were at Rath Yatra about 3 years ago, they were giving away free books in Brisbane, and they were children's books. And some were Prana's books, actually, and they were just really amazing how to learn Sanskrit for young kids, right, 4 or 5. And they have images, and they have the phonetics in Sanskrit, so you learn the Sanskrit word with the image. They were absolutely brilliant. So, these things you find out about Prana as you go along. So he never advertised himself in anything. And just finally, I did have the pleasure of associating with him in Mayapur, when he was in Mayapur, and you wouldn't know that he'd been suffering so much. He was just like a very outstanding Vaishnava, very warm, very generous, encompassing, and he seemed to just take his lot, whatever material energy dished out to him, he just took it in his stride. And then shortly after I left Mayapur, he went to Vrindavan for his final chapter. So he was a glorious Vaishnava, and it's really nice that we've all come together to glorify him. Sure.
Okay, thank you, Vasu Prabhu. If Urmila Mataji is ready, you can speak, or do you want to let someone else go once you settled in? Okay. We'll invite Nashinga Kavach Prabhu. Gopapatni Mataji, would you like to speak?
I can't remember what year. We were, I was married in 1990, I think, and I lived at Nandagram, and Prana would often come and have a yarn and a beverage, a hot beverage, and I felt like I could relate to him materially. He socialised on the periphery of the same peer group as me when I was younger. So I felt like there was a lot in common materially. He was astute, incredibly intelligent and really observant. But I think the really special thing about Prana was that when you were with him, there was no pretense. He was authentic and genuine. The Gurukul up here. We were working at the Gurukul, and it was early days at the Gurukul, New Govardhan, in terms of restarting the secondary school. So it was tough, and we had huge behaviour problems because most of us were teachers straight out of uni. It wasn't like we were super experienced, and we're in this weird twilight zone in the Gurukul where we're not hardcore materialists and we're not hardcore spiritualists. So it's a weird place to be for us. Anyway, he came and he wasn't judgmental, and yet he was particularly intelligent, which is unusual. Usually with intelligent people you'll get hyper judgment. He came in and he was super helpful and supportive and had enormous empathy for the teachers and what they were going through. Rather than coming in and seeing the inadequacies, which there were plenty, he was incredibly humane. We went to India, to Mayapur with our batch of kids, and the men were in charge of the boys and the women were in charge of the girls, and I've never ever been more happy to be a woman than at that trip. Those boys were testing. They were like 13 or 14. I don't even know why they allowed them to go. So they're up there. They're literally kamikaze kids. They're trying to kill themselves. And he was in charge of it, and he was so contained. I mean, any other human being would have gone berserk, right? He was okay, but as soon as he got back, that's when he was diagnosed. And I sometimes in the back of my mind wonder if we didn't push him too far. He was such a loss to the Gurukul. When he came, I was relieved. I thought, okay, the high school has got a master, because the school's so big. Vinod is spread over the primary and the high, and there's only so much a human being can do. And so it would have been great if we'd had Prana to guide us, but we don't have that, and to this day I lament that. I never had the heart to contact him when I found out he wasn't well, because what do you say? But I'm glad that I know him, and I'm touched, and I feel like he might be rooting for me on the other side, so that's great.
Well, I guess I don't know if I can do this. I really don't. Maybe I just can't. I first worked with Prana Prabhu in the late 90s when
and so and the thing is, like as some of the other devotees have mentioned, Prana just wouldn't sort of talk about it and make a big fuss about it. He'd do something about it, and that's the one thing I really appreciated about him. As Urmila was saying, he wasn't just criticizing for the sake of criticizing. He identified the fault and tried his best to do something about it. And he had quite a lot of success in that area. He was trustworthy. He was a loyal friend, humble, steady, true to his values. I mean, a person of great integrity. He walked the talk. It was very quite amazing. And very inspirational, very, very inspirational. Prana's association was always it was always an enlivening experience, always good to be with him, to spend time with him. And one of the things that I've always seen with Prana is he had all the time in the world for people. You never felt like, he's looking at the watch, I've got to go somewhere, I've got to do this. Just all the time in the world for people. And he was always very, very generous. And, fixed and steady in his service, dedicated to, his life for serving Krishna and Vaishnavas. And a champion of education, he was always not just like, his profession, so to speak, where he would just, go to school, teach, and then come home and, someone else at home. But actually, his whole life he was a teacher. This is very interesting. And actually, I got a letter this morning from his stepson, Mahavan. I think his name's Madhu Initiated. I can't remember his initiated name. And he said, I wrote to him because I read one of the things he contributed. He said, "Thank you, Prabhu. Dad was an inspiration all his life with steadfast sadhana and dedication to education and child protection when I think about it now. But he was extremely inspirational in those last moments I shared with him. It was his last lesson to me, your servant Mahavan." So the point there is that, he was always, and I don't think he was consciously trying to teach people, just by his natural disposition, he was inspiring others in Krishna consciousness. So it's a very, very wonderful example he gave. And he was very, very dedicated to, he was a role model as an educator. And he is very, very dedicated. And when he took up something that he wanted to do, he really was willing to go the extra mile. I remember some years ago, I can't remember, I was in Melbourne, and I hadn't seen Prana for a number of years, and then all of a sudden he was just sitting there in the courtyard. And so we sat down, we had a conversation for several hours, and we were talking about deity worship education, and he was really eager that he wanted to help with what we were doing with online and stuff like that. And then sometime later, I can't remember where it was, the conversation developed about developing a Bhakti Shastri module on deity worship. So we made a plan to do it. And he and Chandrakoti drove from Melbourne to New Gokul, because they knew I was going to be there, just so we could spend a few weeks working on this Bhakti Shastri module. Then when he moved up, no, that was after he was living here. So then what happened was sometime after that, I went down to Melbourne for a few weeks, and I was going and visiting his house every day. And it's kind of interesting also working with him on curriculum development. He'd always see the bigger picture, and sometimes he and I would have very different ideas on how to present something or how to write the curriculum. But it was always very pleasurable working with him because it never got into the point of being an argument. We'd always try and he'd be asking questions like, okay, well, how do you want to do this and how do you want to do that? And somehow or other we'd come to an agreed outcome on it. So it was, and actually we got to the point. It's not completely finished, but I actually taught the curriculum for the first time down in Melbourne. I was just down there actually my wife and I were down there in November, wasn't it? The whole of November in Melbourne, so I taught it for the first time, and it went down really well. And so the plan is to get it online, and the opening part because I'm working with Krishnendu, who's also a very close friend of Prana's from New Zealand. And our plan is like the opening of the course will just be a dedication to Prana. We'll have some videos and stories of his life and just his nature. Because he really did dedicate himself seriously to education and just trying to make things better, especially for children, but also for devotees in general. So thank you. Prana Prabhu. Prana Prabhu ki jai.
Shinga Kavach Prabhu, now we'll invite Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I took the time to write something in the form of a thank you letter to Prana. And my only regret is I didn't spend a lot more time researching and finding lots of nice quotes, because I think Prana would be worthy of all those things I've been reading recently in the Bhagavatam in the 11th canto, where Prabhupada talks about all the qualities, Krishna talks about all the qualities which are desirable for a devotee. And when I was reading those, I'm thinking how Prana embodied a lot of those things that Lord Krishna mentions. Anyway, I wrote something, and try and read that. Dear Prana Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. When a television interviewer asked Srila Prabhupada by what behaviour one could recognise a true follower of Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada replied, he'd be a perfect gentleman, that's all. Thank you, Prana, for being such a genuine follower of Srila Prabhupada and thereby setting a standard by which all other devotees could benefit. Your company was always pleasurable and congenial. You were never unduly critical of others and always sober and positive. You had the most disarming disposition. You were one of those devotees whom we wished we could be like, a touchstone of Krishna consciousness. We are reminded of a verse spoken by Lord Kabila, Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-21. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. You are very learned in Shastra and a great contributor to the realm of ISKCON education. This is your lasting legacy. Your life was exemplary, as was your passing from this life. You were focused until the end and fully Krishna conscious, not overcome by any lamentation or regret. A wonderful example for us all. I thank you for the brief associations I had with you over the decades, which has always benefited my own life in so many ways. All glories to you, your servant Prabhu Das.
Thank you, Prabhu. And now we'll invite Param Karuna Prabhu. He braved the storm and he came across the bridge with his raincoat dripping wet. So thank you so much. And Rupa Raghunatha Prabhu has also walked in. So after Param Karuna Prabhu, Rupa Raghunatha Prabhu. Thank you.
Yes, Hare Krishna. I've got my shorts on. I thought we have to walk across the bridge. But Rupa just made it as well. I think Umila, I only caught a few offerings on arrival here, and Nishinkavacha, who thinks he's not so eloquent, but I thought it was one of the most eloquent offerings to Prana Prabhu. Thank you, Nishinkavacha Prabhu. I followed in the footsteps of Nishinga and Prana and sometimes came to Melbourne, and I remember Nishinkavacha coming down the hallways at 3 a.m. on the way to Mangalati, and we used to sleep in the hallways when we visited there. And the pounding of Nishinkavacha going to Mangalati was always the precursor to the beat of the Madanga, so we got an early start there with Nishinga. And I met Prana down there in the early 90s, and yes, everybody's mentioned how he was warm-hearted and like that. You could almost feel like you're meeting your brother from the moment that you met Prana Prabhu. Very warm and open person, and a pleasure to have known Prana. I don't know the years, that's why I asked Umala when he went to New Golok in North Carolina, because he was staying. We opened an ashram in Canberra called the Nittai Gaura Hari Ashram. I don't know, Ramai Swami, if you came to that installation. The years were like maybe 95 through 98, and Prana stayed there, Prabhu, because he was assisting also Prabhu Vishnu Maharaj, who was studying at the ANU at the time. Prabhu Vishnu Maharaj was studying Sanskrit, Russian, Hindi, all simultaneously. and Prana was there doing curriculum studies. So, to be the person that Prana was, living the life of education and trying his darndest to get curriculums and books published and so forth, there's a lot of behind the scenes, like any person who achieves the top of their game. I was living with Prana for 3 years. Prana would leave, go to New Gokul in America and other places, but he would always come back. So it was seeing him studying regularly. He had a room full of books. We all had a room in that ashram. There was 4 or 5 of us, Stoker Krishna from Melbourne, myself, Prabhu Vishnu, Prana, maybe Aldarya, and sometimes Panduputra would stay. So we had a nice ashram. We'd have Mangaladi and then immediately class. Just the way Prabhu Vishnu Maharaj was studying at university, we had the whole program in the morning, finished by 6 o'clock. And, it was a very, very nice time to live with Prana and Prabhu Vishnu and the other devotees, because everyone had their designated service. Everyone got on with it, and, obviously Maharaj and Prana was so dedicated to what they were trying to achieve for their preaching efforts and the movement that it just sort of rubbed off on all of us. So we all got into our groove, our niche of doing what we had to do. And we lived together there for a few years, and it was pretty much like a real Vedic ashram, something you read about in the Bhagavatam, for a few years. Which was a great pleasure and a great grounding to live amongst such exalted personalities. And perhaps I could have treated him a bit more like the exalted devotee he was, but we had a sort of a matey relationship. Prana always, we're only 2 months apart. He's 2 months my senior, but we always had a sort of a off-the-cuff sort of an Aussie mateship. Sometimes Prana would ring me up from Bombay when he was struggling to get financial support for his books and his projects, and tell me what a pain it was and the trouble it was even having in his marriage, because, promises were made, money wasn't forthcoming, and even money was lost, but he tried everything. Prana was always in mind trying to get his projects established for the good of the movement. He was very, very committed. Like I think Nishinga said, he didn't just come home, or Urmila had just said, he didn't just come home and switch off like a teacher. His whole life was education and planning. So I got witness to that. I saw him always talking about the books and the curriculum. I got examples of that. He would show me. We would talk a lot. About 5 years ago, I think it was, I went down and I visited in Point Cook, and Prana allowed me to stay with Chandrakoti and him in his house, and for a week I stayed, and he hosted me there, and we got to spend a nice week, and I saw what love Prana Prabhu had for the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we go Japa walk every day, and just like when we were in Canberra, and then we would talk a lot. But in the evenings, he would do his puja to his beautiful deities, and we would read from the Bhagavatam, or he would read, and he would give a small class every evening, and he told me he just loved it. This was the pinnacle of his life, just to sit down in the evening and read the Bhagavatam. And it was a pleasure to be there, and he already knew he had the cancer situation in his body, and he told me that he just had to get himself ready. He was committed, he was never phased, so admirable. Anyway, I love Prana like a brother. I'm not in the educational field, but he gave me a lot of his time. I thank him for that, and I'm indebted to his association. There's not much I can say that hasn't been said. I think about how I perceive Prana, but he was just like able to just give you that time, and no matter what, no matter how busy he was, and he'd always make a point of just making sure, you know, how you going, Param, and talk to you, and he was a beautiful person, a great Vaishnava, and exemplary, and you know, quite a deal of fun. I think the reason that he had that fiery sort of glint sometimes, and he did have that, but his heart was softened by the process, softened by the love of Prabhupada, softened by, you know, the dedication to pleasing Prabhupada with his services, that his heart was soft. So even though he had a fiery temperament to a degree, and I understood what the devotees meant when he said that, I saw that, but he could contain it, and his heart was soft. He's very empathetic. Is that the right word, empathy? He had a lot of empathy. And even though he could be wanting to express that fire, he sort of tempered that because he was very intelligent. And, you know, he had a big family, lots of brothers. He always told me about what was happening there, and he sort of included me in the fold. I felt like, you know, I had a spiritual brother in Prana. That's all I wish to say. Hare Krishna.
Jai, His Grace Prana Prabhu Ki Jai. So it's Prana's mercy that I'm here today. Just got back from travelling with 5 kids for 12 days, down to Albury and back. And I was sort of just resting today. I didn't think I'd make it because the bridge was over. But Parama, he encouraged me to come. And like him, I've also got my shorts underneath ready in case we have to walk across the bridge.
I actually forgot something. Prana loved the Bhagavatam too so much. I feel I have to do this on this memorial. I'm reading a verse, or it's just the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.10. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessarily engagements in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth in every sphere of life. Therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth, and that sort of engagement will make one happy, because he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And that's for you, Prana Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So I didn't get a lot of time.
Thank you very much, Dhanishta Mataji. For those, I'll be sharing it on Facebook. Dhanishta Mataji is a qualified professional nurse. So she was just spending some time with Prana Prabhu in Mayapur not too long ago. And Chandrakoti Mataji. Hare Krishna. We don't have any more devotees who would like to speak, so I'll just quickly read an offering from Patasarthi. She knew Prana Prabhu for many decades in Auckland, and then now she's moved to New Govardhan, and she does part-time teaching at the Gurukul, and she also taught at the Hare Krishna school in Auckland. So I'll just read her offering. She wrote a poem, and she didn't have time to edit it, but here it goes. Dear Prana Prabhu, K for kindness, compassion and caring. A song that you wrote that was all about sharing our wonderful life, and for the children to know that values are important for themselves to grow. You embraced Vaishnava culture, and I can just imagine how well you would fit in Goloka Vrindavan. Whilst being a gentleman, there was a simplicity. There seems to be perfect Braja gaiety. Dear Prana Prabhu, you've inspired us all to go back to Krishna. You heeded his call. She also wanted me to read an offering by a devotee called Nandini. I think Nandini, Yes, Nandini is the daughter of Sura Krishna Prabhu and Vishnupati Mataji, and she was at the Gurukul when Prana Prabhu was there, and he was an integral part of her family joining Krishna consciousness before the kids were born. So Nandini writes, Dear Prana Prabhu, both you and Chandrakoti Mataji have been and will continue to be an integral part of our spiritual life. It is because of you that we are in this Krishna consciousness movement. You have influenced and changed the lives of countless people with your kindness and compassion, and you have done it in a way that every single person has